good answer. I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, Adam. We had to repeal Obamacare because it's too complicated. But you have to replace it with something. Medical liability reform, I voted for that. And that's pretty hard for someone who practiced law to be in favor of medical liability reform. It will save over $50 billion a year. Increase medical savings account, allow health insurance to be sold across state lines, fund existing state pools for coverage for people who fall between the cracks, allow small employers and individuals to form giant purchasing pools called association health plans, because the larger the pool, the better insurance you can get, the cheaper it is, and it also eliminates in many cases pre-existing illnesses. Encourage utilization of community health centers. When I chaired the small business group, I held hearings across the nation, all over the place, from coast to coast, listening to small employers, trying to figure out how in blazes they're going to be able to afford health insurance. I talked to Miss Carroll at Miss Carroll's restaurant today and last week about the cost of health insurance. Our family is a victim of that. My brother closed the restaurant for 41 years because he and his wife could not afford health insurance for themselves, but never afforded it for the people who work for them. That's why I'm passionate about it. It cost my brother his restaurant, the high cost of health care, repeal Obamacare, put in common sense free market solutions.
I will say this in my 30 seconds. I think we agree on this issue, and but we've got to go there and we've got to be serious. And I'm excited about the fact that maybe this spring it's going to be repealed, hopefully by the Supreme Court. But it's definitely going to be repealed when we get a new president of the United States, when we hold the House of Representatives, and we get rid of Harry Reid as president of the Senate, or the majority.
I think I've gotten into the swing.
It says it's a two-part question.
Oh, two-part. Okay.
But the other one said it was three parts, and I agree with Congressman Kinzinger, it was actually 2 parts. All right, concerning Medicaid, one of the entitlement programs, please explain the disparity between the various states in the implementation of the program. For example, WCIA News reported that Illinois link cards out-of-state transactions totaled more than $120 million spent between January 2010 and February 2011. More specifically, $1.2 million was spent in California on Illinois link cards, $2.6 million in Florida, $21,000 in Alaska, and $44,000 in Hawaii. If people qualify for such a program in Illinois, how are they able to afford to utilize the program in such warm places? Shouldn't the federal government re-examine the qualifications for Medicaid? That's it.
Well, that's the problem with the one-size-fits-all formula coming from Washington. Paul Ryan's plan, and I agree with that, and I'm sure Adam does also, is to block grant Medicaid back to the states, let each state determine for itself how they're going to do it. I was talking to somebody who was in a grocery line, and he said there were 3 teenagers in front of him, checkout line with link cards, trying to con the system on how they're going to be able to get food stamps and all the largesse coming from the federal government to them. That's the problem with this government today. It's so big, it's so pervasive, it's so large. And what does it do? It encourages people not to work. Do you know we just passed an unemployment compensation bill, and Ed and I voted for it, that for the first time it mandates that if you're on unemployment compensation, you must seek a job. It's incredible. That was not the law until we voted on that. Another part of it said, if you're on drugs, you're off unemployment compensation, buddy. We're not using taxpayers' dollars. Whenever we have these welfare programs, make sure that the people who need them receive the help that they're entitled to, but also make sure that all that fraud and abuse are eliminated.
You know, I think the reality is this. We need a change in the state of Illinois. We need leaders in the state of Illinois and Springfield who are going to take a look at the money they get, and they're going to implement tough, strict measures. Here's an example. Governor Haley Barbour in Mississippi was testifying before our committee and said, we actually began requiring people to come in and prove every year that they were eligible for Medicaid, instead of just automatically being re-enrolled. He said in doing that, the next year we had a 20% drop in people enrolled in Medicaid because there were folks that were no longer qualified for it that could no longer auto-enroll. So from the federal level, we need to ensure that states are being held accountable to spending that money correctly. But just as importantly, and I think almost more importantly today, we need a change in the governor's race in Illinois. In the governor, we need to get rid of Mike Madigan as Speaker of the Illinois House of Representatives. And frankly, we need congressmen who are going to work to build a team to stand together to take the only 6 seats we need to take back the House of Representatives. That's somebody I am. Now, Congressman Manzullo earlier mentioned that the problem is big government. And I've got to tell you, I agree with him. Congressman Manzullo voted for the Cash for Clunkers program. That's a belief that big government can solve problems. And from 2001 to 2007, he voted for bills that resulted in a 60% increase in the size of federal government. So I agree, big government is the problem, and that's what we need to take care of.
Nobody with a lifetime average of 96% of the American Conservative Union is responsible for increasing the size of government. In fact, since 2007, I voted over 300 times to cut $2.7 trillion in spending. If other members of Congress, including yourself, had followed my role, what I've been doing, we would not be in this economic mess. Cash for clunkers, I'm messing, she put up 30
Time.
seconds. No, I'm supposed to get a minute and a half. No.
That's a rebuttal. 30-second rebuttal.
Okay.
You got a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I'll talk about